Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Uncivil Law. And yeah, it's another day. It's another day and another opportunity to see some executive orders be signed. So this is about 10 minutes old. Just saw it pop up on my feed. Let's go. Let me see if this is on the White House feed before I use this other random site. So let me just check this real fast. Give me 1 second. I use the White House official feed if it's on there. No, not yet. All right. We'll use the feed from ANI News. All right, cool. Let's check this out. This will be fun. What are we doing today, Trump? What's today? What's in store for executive orders today? Let's find out.
I think it's very important, and that's one of the reasons I got elected. I said we're going to do that. Nobody had any idea it was that bad, that sick, and that corrupt. And it seems hard to believe that judges want to try and stop us from looking for corruption, especially when we found hundreds of millions of dollars worth, much more than that, in just a short period of time. And we want to weed out the corruption. And it seems hard to believe that a judge could say, we don't want you to do that. Well, so maybe we have to look at the judges, because that's a very serious, I think it's a very serious violation. I'll ask Elon Musk to say a few words, and we'll take some questions. Elon, go ahead.
Sure. So
Elon Musk is in the White House, in the Oval Office, standing behind the Resolute desk. Wow.
At a high level, if you say, what is the goal of DOGE, and I think a significant part of this of the presidency is to restore democracy. This may seem like, well, aren't we in a democracy?
Also, you got to love the fact that Musk is dressing down. He's wearing what appears to be a t-shirt and what I'd call, I guess, a petty overcoat and a gray, possibly camo, as though it's can't quite tell, "Make America Great Again" hat. Who knew you could wear a ball cap in the Oval Office, man? Okay.
Well, if you don't have a feedback loop, okay, we would have to, if you it's all right. So, I tell you, gravitas can be difficult sometimes. If there's not a good feedback loop from the people.
Also, what is Little X wearing? He's wearing first of all, Little X is arguably better dressed than his dad. Little X at least has a collared shirt on and a sweater vest. I could do without the sweater vest. I'm not really a sweater vest kind of guy. It doesn't really work for me. I don't really think it's a good look. But what in the name of gold bandolier is Little X wearing? Okay.
To the government. And if you have rule of the bureaucrat, or if the bureaucracy is in charge, and then what meaning does democracy actually have? If the people cannot vote and have their will be decided by their elected representatives in the form of the president and the Senate and the House, then we don't live in a democracy, we live in a bureaucracy. So it's incredibly important that we close that feedback loop, we fix that feedback loop, and that the public's elected representatives, the president, the House, and the Senate, decide what happens, as opposed to a large unelected bureaucracy. This is not to say that there are good people who are in the federal bureaucracy, but you can't have an autonomous federal bureaucracy. You have to have one that is responsive to the people. That's the whole point of a democracy. And if you looked at this, if you looked at the founders today and said, what do you think of the way things have turned out? Well, we have this unelected, fourth unconstitutional branch of government, which is the bureaucracy, which has, in a lot of ways, currently more power than any elected representative. And this is not something that people want, and it does not match the will of the people. So it's just something we've got to fix. And we've also got to address the deficit. So we've got a $2 trillion deficit, and if we don't do something about this deficit, which is shocking. if we don't do something about this deficit, the country's going bankrupt. I mean, it's really astounding that the interest is not optional for us to reduce the federal expenses. It's essential. It's essential for America to remain solvent as a country, and it's essential for America to have the resources necessary to provide things to its citizens and not simply be servicing vast amounts of debt.
And also, could you mention some of the things that your team has found, some of the crazy numbers, including the woman that walked away with about 30 million,
right,
et cetera?
Well, we do find it sort of rather odd that there are quite a few people in the bureaucracy who have ostensibly a salary of a few $100,000, but somehow manage to accrue tens of millions of dollars in net worth while they are in that position, which is, what happened at USAID. We're just curious as to where it came from. Maybe they're very good at investing, in which case we should take their investment advice, perhaps. But just there seems to be mysteriously they get wealthy. We don't know why. Where does it come from? And I think the reality is that they're getting wealthy at the taxpayer expense. That's the honest truth of it. So, we're looking at, say, if you look at, say Treasury, for example, basic controls that should be in place, that are in place in any company, such as making sure that any given payment has a payment categorization code, that there is a comment field that describes the payment, and that if a payment is on the do not pay list, that you don't actually pay it. None of those things are true currently. So the reason that departments can't pass audits is because the payments don't have a categorization code. It's like just a massive number of blank checks just flying out the building. So you can't reconcile blank checks. You've got comment fields that are also blank, so you don't know why the payment was made. And then we've got this truly absurd, a do not pay list, which can take up to a year for an organization to get on a do not pay list. And this, we're talking about terrorist organizations, we're talking about known fraudsters, known aspects of waste, known things that do not match any congressional appropriation, can take up to a year to get on the list, and even once on the list is not used. It's mind-blowing. So what we're talking about here, we're really just talking about adding common sense controls that should be present, that haven't been present. So you say, like, well, how could such a thing arise? That seems crazy. When you understand that really everything is geared towards complaint minimization, so then you understand the motivations. So if people receive money, they don't complain, obviously. But if people don't receive money, they do complain. And the fraudsters complain the loudest and the fastest. So then when you understand that, then it makes sense. Oh, that's why everything they approve all the payments at Treasury. Because if you approve all the payments, you don't get complaints. But now we're saying that, no, actually, we are going to complain. If money is spent badly, if your taxpayer dollars are not spent in a sensible and frugal manner, then that's not okay. Your tax dollars need to be spent wisely on things that matter to the people. I mean, these things, it's just common sense. It's not draconian or radical, I think. It's really just saying, let's look at each of these expenditures and say, is this actually in the best interest of the people? And if it is, it's approved. If it's not, we should think about it. So, there's crazy things like just cursory examination of Social Security, and we've got people in there that are 150 years old. Now, do you know anyone that's 150? I don't. Okay. They should be on the Guinness Book of World Records. They're missing out. So, that's a case where, I think they're probably dead. It's my guess. Or they should be very famous, one of the two. And then there's a whole bunch of Social Security payments where there's no identifying information. Well, why is there no identifying information? Obviously, we want to make sure that people who deserve to receive Social Security do receive it, and that they receive it quickly and accurately. I'll tell you another crazy thing. So, one of the things is we are trying to sort of right-size the federal bureaucracy, just make sure that this. Obviously, there need to be a lot of people working for the federal government, but not as many as currently. So we're saying, well, okay, if people can retire with full benefits and everything, that would be good. They can retire, get their retirement payments and everything. And then we were told, this is actually, I think, a great anecdote, because we were told the most number of people that could retire possibly in a month is 10,000. We're like, well, why is that? Well, because all the retirement paperwork is manual on paper. It's manually calculated, then written down on a piece of paper. Then it goes down a mine. And I'm like, what do you mean a mine? Like, yeah, there's a limestone mine where we store all the retirement paperwork. And you look at a picture of this mine. We'll post some pictures afterwards. And this mine looks like something out of the 50s because it was started in 1955. So it looks like it's like a time warp. And then the speed, the limiting factor is the speed at which the mine shaft elevator can move determines how many people can retire from the federal government. And the elevator breaks down sometimes, and then nobody can retire. Doesn't that sound crazy? There's like 1,000 people that work on this. So I think if we can take those people and say, like, you know what, instead of working in a mine shaft and carrying manila envelopes to, boxes in a mine shaft, you could do practically anything else. And you would add to the goods and services of the United States in a more useful way. So anyway, so I think, that's an example. Like at a high level, if you say, like, how do we increase prosperity, is we get people to shift from roles that are low to negative productivity to high productivity roles. And so you increase the total output of goods and services, which means that there's a higher standard of living available for everyone. That's the actual goal. Everyone's very quiet, by the way. So are people normally this quiet?
Your detractors, Mr. Musk.
What?
Including a lot of Democrats.
I have detractors?
You do, sir.
I don't believe it.
Say that you're orchestrating a hostile takeover of government and doing it in a non-transparent way. What's your response to that criticism?
Well, first of all, you couldn't ask for a stronger mandate from the public. The public voted. We have a majority of the public voting for President Trump. We've won the House, we won the Senate. The people voted for major government reform. There should be no doubt about that. That was on the campaign. The president spoke about that at every rally. The people voted for major government reform, and that's what the people are going to get. They're going to get what they voted for. And a lot of times, people that don't get what they voted for, but in this presidency, they are going to get what they voted for. And that's what democracy is all about.
Mr. Musk, the White House says that you will identify and excuse yourself from any conflicts of interest that you may have. Does that mean that you are, in effect, policing yourself? What are the checks and balances that are in place to ensure that there is accountability and transparency?
Well, we actually are trying to be as transparent as possible. In fact, we post our actions to the Doge handle on X and to the Doge website. So all of our actions are maximally transparent. In fact, I don't think there's been, I don't know of a case where an organization has been more transparent than the Doge organization. So, and the kind of things we're doing are, I think, very, very simple and basic. They're not, what I mentioned, for example, about Treasury, just making sure that payments that go out, taxpayer money that goes out, is categorized correctly, that the payment is explained, that organizations on the do not pay list, which takes a lot to get there, that actually are not paid, which currently they are paid. These are not individual judgment decisions. These are about simply having sensible checks and balances in the system itself to ensure that taxpayer money is spent well. So it's got nothing to do with, like, say, a contract with some company of mine at all.
But if there is a conflict of interest when it comes to you yourself, for instance, you've received billions of dollars in federal contracts when it comes to the Pentagon, for instance, which the president, I know, has directed you to look into.
Yeah.
Are you policing yourself in that? Is there any sort of accountability check and balance in place that would provide any transparency for the American people?
Well, all of our actions are fully public. So if you see anything, you say, like, wait a second, hey, that seems like maybe that's, there's a conflict there. It's not like people are going to be shy about saying that. They'll say it immediately.
Including you yourself.
Yes, but transparency is what builds trust, not simply somebody asserting trust. So not somebody saying they're trustworthy, but transparency, so you can see everything that's going on. And then you can see, am I doing something that benefits one of my companies or not? It's totally obvious.
And if we thought that, we would not let him do that segment or look in that area if we thought there was a lack of transparency or a conflict of interest. And we watched that also. He's a big businessman. He's a successful guy. That's why we want him doing this. We don't want an unsuccessful guy doing this. Now, one thing also that Elon hasn't really mentioned are the...
So we're going to let the president talk at his press conference now? The president's going to talk at his press conference now? Oh, okay. I thought maybe we were just going to hear from Musk. It was a weird press conference. Okay. Now speaking, the president of the United States. Lol.
Groups of people that are getting some of these payments, they're ridiculous. And we're talking about billions of dollars that we've already found. We found fraud and abuse. I would say those two words as opposed to the third word that I usually use, but in this case, fraud and abuse. It's abusive because most of these things are virtually made up, or certainly money shouldn't be sent to them. And you know what I'm talking about. It's crazy. So, but we're talking about tens of billions of dollars that we've already found. And now a judge who's an activist judge wants to try and stop us from doing this. Why? Why would they want to do that? I campaigned on this. I campaigned on the fact that I said government is corrupt. And it is very corrupt. It's very, very, it's also foolish. As an example, a man has a contract for 3 months and the contract ends, but they keep paying him for the next 20 years, because nobody ends a contract. You get a lot of that. You have a contract that's a 3-month contract. Now, normally, if you're in a small, in all fairness, it's the size of this thing is so big.
Yeah.
But if you have a contract and you're in a regular business, you end the contract in 3 months. It's a consultant. Here's a contract for 3 months, but it goes on for 20 years. And the guy doesn't say that he got money for 20 years, They don't say it. They just keep getting checks month after month. And you have various things like that, and even much worse than that, actually, much worse. And I guess you call that incompetence, maybe.
Yeah.
It could be corruption. It could be a deal's made on both sides, where the guy gets the money, he kicks. I think there's a lot of kickback here. I see a lot of kickback here.
There's a lot of kickbacks.
Tremendous kickback, because nobody could be so stupid to give out some of these contracts,
Yes.
so he has to get a kickback. So that's what I got elected for, that and borders and military and a lot of things, but this is a big part of it. And I hope that the court system is going to allow us to do what we have to do. We got elected to among other things, find all of this fraud, abuse, all of this horrible stuff going on. And we've already found billions of dollars, not like a little bit, billions, many billions of dollars.
At some point, maybe it'll become real money. Right? At some point, it'll become real money. A billion here, a billion there. Soon it starts adding up.
And when you get down to it, it's going to be probably close to $1 trillion. It could be close to $1 trillion that we're going to find. That will have quite an impact on the budget. And you'll go to a judge where they handpick a judge, and he has certain leanings. I'm not knocking anybody for that, but he has certain leanings, and he wants us to stop looking. How do you stop looking? I mean, we've already found it. We have a case in New York where a hotel has paid $59 million, $59 million because it's housing migrants, illegal migrants. All illegal, I believe.
And they were being paid twice the normal room rate at 100% occupancy.
Unbelievable.
So it's a racket.
Yeah.
Mr. Musk, can I ask you a question?
Well, if I may sort of just going for the president's comments, at a high level, you say, what are the two ingredients that are really necessary in order to cut the budget deficit in half from 2 trillion to 1 trillion? And it's really two things: competence and caring. And if you add competence and caring, you'll cut the budget deficit in half. And I fully expect to be scrutinized and get a daily proctology exam, basically. Might as well just camp out there. So it's not like I think I can get away with something. I'll be scrutinized nonstop. And but with the support of the president, we can cut the budget deficit in half from 2 trillion to 1, and then with deregulation, because there's a lot of sort of regulations that don't ultimately serve the public good. We need to free the builders of America to build, and if we do that, that means I think we can get the economic growth to be maybe 3-4%, maybe 5%, and that means if you can get $1 trillion of economic growth and you cut the budget deficit by $1 trillion between now.
Little X
and
picking his
next year,
nose right now.
There is no inflation. There's no inflation at 26. And if the government is not borrowing as much, it means that interest costs decline. So everyone's, the mortgage, their car payment, their credit card bills, anything, their student debt, the monthly payments drop.
Ew.
That's a fantastic scenario for the average American. I mean, imagine they're going down the grocery aisle and the prices from one year to the next are the same, and they're
What? Who's is Little X talking to somebody? Hold on.
Dropped. They're from one year to the next are the same, and they're from. I mean, imagine they're going down the grocery aisle and the prices from one year to the next are the same.
What's happening right now?
And their their mortgage, all their debt payments dropped. How great is that for the average American?
We had
That's
no
what we're
idea. We had no idea we were going to find this much, and it's open. It's not like complicated. It's
not that
simple stuff.
complicated.
It's
just a lot of work,
We
yeah.
can't believe it. A lot of work. A lot of smart people involved. Very, very smart people. But you're talking about anywhere maybe 500 billion. It's crazy the kind of numbers you're
is really
talking
crazy.
about. You know, normally when you're looking at something, you'll find you're looking for 1 out of 100. Here, you're almost reversing it. You look for one that's good.
Yeah.
And you can look at the title and you say, why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? And the public gets it. You know, the public gets it. You've seen the polls.
I do like Little X's. I like Little X's swag, I have to say, except for the gold bandolier, because I'm not sure what the gold bandolier is supposed to be doing. But otherwise, I like the swag. I'm liking the gold, the tan shoes with the blue socks, with the dark blue pants, that tan overcoat with the blue, very classic. So Little X knows how to dress, except for the gold bandolier, which continues to confuse me. I think Big X could learn something from Little X on how to dress for the White House.
Why are we paying all this money? This for years. This has gone on.
President Trump,
Yeah, go ahead. Wait, go ahead.
Senator Rand Paul today said that DOJ cuts will ultimately need a vote in Congress. Do you agree with that? Is that the
I
plan?
really don't know. I know this. We're finding tremendous fraud and tremendous abuse. If I need a vote of Congress to find fraud and abuse, it's fine with me. I think we'll get the vote, although there'll be some people that wouldn't vote. And how could a judge want to hold us back from finding all of this fraud and finding all
President
of this
isn't wearing a watch.
Why would that
Interesting.
happen? Why would even Congress want to do that? Now, Congress, if we do need a vote, I think we'd get a very easy vote because we have a track record now. We've already found billions of dollars of abuse, incompetence, and corruption. A lot of corruption.
If a judge does block one of your policies, part of your agenda, will you abide by that ruling? Will you
Well,
comply
I
with that
always
order?
abide by the courts, and then I'll have to appeal it. But then what he's done is he slowed down the momentum. And it gives crooked people more time to cover up the books. You know, if a person's crooked and they get caught.
Why is it
other
interesting?
people
I don't
see that,
know.
And all of a sudden it becomes.
It's interesting because I've been on a watch kick recently, as I've been posting my watches on my channel recently on my community posts. So I don't know. I've just been thinking about watches a lot recently. So I'm like, okay, it was interesting to me.
Harder later on. So, yeah, the answer is I always abide by the courts, always abide by them, and will appeal. But appeals take a long time, and I would hope that a judge, if you go into a judge and you show him, here's a corrupt situation, we have a check to be sent, but we found it to be corrupt. Do you want us to send this corrupt check to a person, or do you want us not to give it and give it back to the taxpayer? I would hope a judge would say, don't send it, give it back to the taxpayer.
Yeah, if I can add to that, what we're finding is that a bunch of the fraud is not even going to Americans. So I think we can all agree that if there's going to be fraud, it should at least go to Americans. But a bunch of the fraud rings that are operating in the United States and taking advantage of the federal government, especially in the entitlements programs, are actually foreign fraud rings. They're operating in other countries and actually exporting money to other countries. We should stop that.
Mr. Musk,
And this is big numbers. Talk about $100 to $200 billion a year.
Sure.
Serious money.
Mr. Musk, you said on X
Yeah.
that an example of the fraud that you have cited was $50 million of condoms was sent to Gaza. But after fact-check this, apparently Gaza in Mozambique, and the program was to protect them against HIV. So can you correct the statements? It wasn't sent to Hamas, actually. It was sent to Mozambique, which makes sense why condoms was sent there.
Yeah.
And how can we make sure that all the statements that you said were correct, so we can trust what you say?
Well, first of all, some of the things that I say will be incorrect and should be corrected. So nobody's going to bat 1,000. I mean, we will make mistakes, but we'll act quickly to correct any mistakes. I'm not sure we should be sending $50 million worth of condoms to anywhere, frankly. I'm not sure that's something Americans would be really excited about. And that is really an enormous number of condoms, if you think about it. But if it went to Mozambique instead of Gaza, I'm like, okay, that's not as bad, but still, why are we doing that?
Mr. Musk, can you talk a little bit about how closely you're working with agency heads as you're directing these cuts? Do they have how much input do agency heads have when you're making these decisions?
Yeah, we work closely with the agency heads, yeah. So there are sort of checks in place. So it's not just us just going in and doing things willy-nilly. It's in partnership with the agency heads, and I check frequently with the president to make sure that this is what the president wants to have happen. So we talk almost every day, and I double check things to make sure, is this something, Mr. President, you want us to do this? Then we'll do it.
USAID has been one of your main targets. Are you concerned at all that some of the cuts or that shutting that agency altogether may lead to diseases or other bigger problems starting in other countries that then come to the United States?
Yeah, so that's an interesting example. So that's something where we work closely with the State Department and Secretary Rubio. And we have, for example, turned on funding for Ebola prevention and for HIV prevention.
Left that, you said?
Yes, correct. And we are moving fast, so we will make mistakes, but we'll also fix the mistakes very quickly. So,
do you see it as a worthy cause, USAID?
I think that there's some worthy things, but overall, if you say what was the bang for the buck, I would say it was not very good. And there was far too much of what USAID was doing was influencing elections in ways that I think were dubious and do not stand the light of day.
I can just ask a follow-up to the Pentagon contracts. If you have received billions of dollars in contracts from the Pentagon, and the president's directing you to look into the Department of Defense, is that
we
a
definitely need
conflict
to
of
do and
interest?
are going to do at the president's request.
Does that present a conflict of interest for you?
No, because you'd have to look at the individual contract and say, first of all, I'm not the one, filing the contract. It's people at SpaceX or someone who will be putting for the contract. And I'd like to say, if you see any contract where where it was awarded to SpaceX and it wasn't by far the best value for money for the taxpayer, let me know, because every one of them was.
The president said the other day that you might look at treasuries. Could you explain that a little bit? What kind of fraud, and that question goes to both of you, what kind of fraud are you expecting to see or do you see right now in U.S. treasuries?
Yeah, I think you mean the Treasury Department as opposed to Treasury bills, or.
You also referenced treasuries on Air Force One the other night.
Go ahead.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, really, the first order of business is to make sure we're actually collecting. Sorry for this. I thought my son might enjoy this, but he's sticking his fingers in my ears and stuff. So it's a bit hard to hear sometimes. Hey, stop that. No, the stuff we're doing with the Treasury Department is so basic that you can't believe it doesn't exist already. So for example, like I mentioned, just making sure that when a payment goes out, it has to have a payment categorization code. It's like, what type of payment is this? You can't just leave the field blank. Currently,
This
many
this is
fields
this
are
is the
blank.
ultimate take your child to work day. Am I right though? I mean, you know, this is the best version of take your child to work day ever. I got to go with my father to the office. I got to go with my father to the Oval Office. Yeah, it's like, okay, well, it's going pretty well over here for little Lex. He may be peaking. We'll see.
And you have to describe what's the payment for, some basic rationalization. That also is left blank. So this is why, the Pentagon, when's the last time the Pentagon passed an audit? I mean, a decade ago, maybe? Or ever? Really? And we want to just, in order to actually pass audits, you have to have financial information that allows you to trace the payments. And once in a while, the Treasury has to pause payments if it thinks the payment is going to a fraudulent organization. Like, if a company or an organization is on a do not pay list, we should not pay it. I'm sure you would agree. Like, if it's quite hard to get on that payment, the do not pay list, it means that this is someone that is just, it's like dead people, terrorists, known fraudsters, that kind of thing. We should not pay them. But currently we do, which is crazy. We should stop that.
Many transactions. And by the way, hundreds, thousands of transactions like that. You know, we have a big team. And for the sake of the country, I hope that the person that's in charge and the other people that report to me that are in charge are allowed to do the right thing, namely make sure everything's honest, legitimate, and competent. But we're looking at just, when you look at USAID, that's one. We're going to look at the military. We're going to look at education. They're much bigger areas.
I am all in favor of auditing the Defense Department. I'm sure that when DOJ gets around to the Defense Department, hopefully sooner rather than later, they should be able to discover all kinds of fun and exciting things, I would imagine. Yeah.
But the USAID is really corrupt. I'll tell you, it's corrupt. It's incompetent, and it's really corrupt. And I can't imagine a judge saying, well, it may be corrupt, but you don't have the right. You got elected to look over the country and to, as we say, make America great again, but you don't have the right to go and look and see whether or not things are right that they're paying or that things are honest that they're paying. And nobody can even believe this. Other people, law professors, they've been saying, how can you take that person's right away? You're supposed to be running the country, but we're not allowed to look at who they're paying it to and what they're paying. We have massive amounts of fraud that we caught. I think we probably caught way over a lot of billions of dollars already in, what, 2 weeks?
Yes.
And it's going to go to numbers that you're not going to believe. And much, as I said, much is incompetence and much is dishonesty. We have to catch it. And the only way we're going to catch it is to look for it. And if a judge is going to say you're not allowed to look for it, that's pretty sad for our country. I don't understand how it could even work.
The buyout program, can you personally guarantee that?
Which one?
The buyout program, the operative federal workers. Can you personally guarantee that the workers who opt in to resign now will be paid through
Well, they'll
September?
get their money, but they're getting a good deal. They're getting a big buyout. And what we're trying to do is reduce government. We have too many people. We have office space. It's occupied by 4%. Nobody's showing up to work because they were told not to. And then Biden gave them a 5-year pass, some of them, 48,000 of them, gave them a 5-year pass, that for 5 years you don't have to show up to work. And let me tell you, this is largely, much of this stuff is because of Biden. It's his fault. He allowed this country, what he did on our border. What he did on our border is almost not as bad as what he did with all of these contracts that have come out. It's a very sad day when we look at it. I can't even believe it. But many contracts just extend, and they just keep extending, and there was nobody there to correct it. And that cannot be, I can't imagine that could be held up by the court. Any court that would say that the president or his representatives, like Secretary of the Treasury, Secretary of State, whatever, doesn't have the right to go over their books and make sure everything's honest. I mean, how can you have a country? You can't have anything that way. You can't have a business that way. You can't have a country that way. Hey, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
All right, guys.
Back tonight. tonight at about 10 o'clock. If you want to come over, you can say hello to him.
Did you guys get anything in return?
Not much. No, they were very nice. We were treated very nicely by Russia, actually. I hope that's the beginning of a relationship where we can end that war and millions of people can stop being killed. They've lost millions of people. They lost, in terms of soldiers, probably 1.5 million soldiers in a short period of time. We got to stop that war. And I'm interested primarily from the standpoint of death. We're losing all those soldiers. And they're not American soldiers, they're Ukrainian and Russian soldiers. But you're probably talking about 1.5 million. I think we got to bring that one to an end. Okay? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go.
Thank you.
10 o'clock tonight at the White House.
All right, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Let's head out.
Thank you. See you later.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys. Right behind the stills.
Billions of dollars in waste, fraud.
Okay, I guess that's the end of the conference, and then they just repeated the conference again. So I suppose there's no signing of executive orders. I was told there would be signing of executive orders. The news media lied to me. I'm disappointed. Let's see what else. See if there's some other feed here. Hold on. He can't stop the war? I don't know. It feels like he's making progress. It feels like progress is being made. There were remarks 3 years ago on Gaza. He met with Jordan's king 3 hours ago. Oh man, I'm just missing all kinds of shit. Okay. Hold on 1 second, please. Yeah, all right. All right, so we'll watch this. He met with Jordan's king. Oh. Okay, let's watch Jordan's king speak to the President of the United States in the Oval Office. This should be interesting.
Great gentleman, a great leader, and does a fantastic job in his country. His son, we're lucky enough to have his handsome son with us today, so it's good to see you again. We've had some quick discussions just now, and we're going to have some longer discussions after this. And the relationship with Jordan has been very strong, has been with me, and it really has been with the country. But I think I've been closer than other presidents to Jordan and what Jordan represents. And it's an honor to have you and your son with us today. And if you'd like to say a few words, and thank you very much.
Mr. President, thank you very much for having us in so short after your inauguration. I think just as a testament to what you said is a special relationship between our two countries and the personal relationship of friendship and trust between the two of us. Mr. President, I truly believe that with all the challenges that we have in the Middle East, that I finally see somebody that can take us across the finish line to bring stability, peace, and prosperity to all of us in the region. And it is, I think, our collective responsibility in the Middle East to continue to work with you, to support you, to achieve those lofty goals. So I'm very delighted to be here. And as you said, sir, we've got some very interesting discussions ahead of us.
Very good. Very good. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, many people in the region, especially Jordan, are worried about the annexation of the West Bank. Will you give His Majesty the King guarantee that you won't allow Israel to annex the West Bank? And how are you going to...
I think it's going to work out very well. That's not really what we're...
I'll tell you what, I don't really like the question because the United States does not recognize Palestine, right? So if it were me, I'd be like, annex from who? Would be my question. If I were president of the United States, or my question back, annex from who? Right? Because we don't recognize Palestine. What do you mean annex? Right? So it's like, but the president doesn't go that direction, so that's fine.
Talking about today, I think that's something that's going to work out automatically, and it's in good shape. and we discuss it, and other people have discussed it with us and with me. That's going to work out. West Bank is going to work out very well.
Mr. President, why should the king take in the Palestinian people? He's made clear he doesn't want to.
Well, I don't know, but he may have just something to say because we discussed just briefly. I think maybe you want to say it now, or?
Well, Mr. President, I think we have to keep in mind that there is a plan from Egypt and the Arab countries. We're being invited by Mohammed bin Salman to discussions in Riyadh. I think the point is how do we make this work in a way that is good for everybody? Right. Obviously, we have to look at the best interests of the United States, of the people in the region, especially to my people of Jordan. And we're going to have some interesting discussions today. I think one of the things that we can do right away is take 2,000 children that are either cancer children or in very ill state to.
Yeah, you gotta love that. The reporter's question is, you gotta love that. The reporter's like, the king says that he doesn't want to take any people, and the king's like, we'll take 2,000 children. What about the king when he says he doesn't want to take anybody? Well, I'm the king, and as a matter of fact, it's not quite how we see it. Lol. Get bad.
Jordan as quickly as possible, and then wait for, I think, the Egyptians to present their plan on how we can work with the president to work on Gaza challenges.
So you're
I want to tell you, excuse me, wait, just please. I didn't know that, what you just said, 2,000 children with cancer or other problems. And that's really a beautiful gesture. That's really good, and we appreciate it. And we'll be working on the rest with Egypt. I think you're going to see some great progress. I think with Jordan, you're going to see some great progress. There's 3 of us, and we'll have some others helping, and we're going to have some others at a very high level helping, and the whole thing will come. It's not a complex thing to do.
It's a little
and
complex.
With the United States being in control of that piece of land, a fairly large piece of land, you're going to have stability in the Middle East for the first time. And the Palestinians, or the people that live now in Gaza, will be living beautifully in another location. They're going to be living safely. They're not going to be killed.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Boca Raton #2. Now with access to the Mediterranean. Yeah, I have questions about how Boca Raton #2 is going to be developed, but we'll give it a shot.
Murdered and having to leave every 10 years, because I've been watching this for so many years. It's nothing but trouble. Everyone's being killed. They're being robbed. It's like living in hell, and they're going to end up having a great home, great families that don't have to get mugged and killed and beaten up and harassed by Hamas and everybody else. And I know we'll be able to work something. And what you just said about the 2,000 is fantastic. It's so beautiful. It's music to my ears. But we're going to be able to work.
What's that supposed to mean, Boca Raton #2? Okay, so since you didn't pick up what I was laying down, Boca Raton is a fairly touristy beach town where people go to, like, be touristy and, commercey and sort of like whatever. And I was saying that is what the president appears to be describing for what he wants to turn Gaza into, will be Boca Raton #2. I was using Boca Raton as a emblematic idea of what he seems to want to do with Gaza. Since you didn't pick up on that one, that's what I was talking about. Glad I could clear that one up. Yeah.
And I know we'll be able to work something also with I believe, not 100%, but 99%. We're going to work out something with Egypt.
But Mr. President, during your election campaign, Mr. President, how is the U.S. going to own Gaza? Your White House has made clear taxpayer dollars won't be used for this. So what money are you going to use to buy Gaza?
We're not going to buy anything. We're going to have it, and we're going to keep it, and we're going to make sure that there's going to be
such
peace,
a jerk about it.
And there's not going to be any problem, and nobody.
I suppose I don't have to be such a jerk about it, but then I would be something other than I'm not. So,
question it. and we're going to run it very properly, and eventually we'll have economic development at a very large scale, maybe the largest scale on that site. And we'll have lots of good things built there, including hotels and office buildings and housing and other things. And we'll make that site into what it should be. And the people from Gaza who wouldn't be able to be there for years, because you're talking about just to get it and prepare it and to take care of all of the problems that currently it has, as you know, tunnels, and people are in those tunnels. And you have some good people and some bad people, and you may have hostages right now. You know, you have the hostages possibly there. They don't know where they are. And, you know, I have a Saturday deadline, and I don't think they're going to make the deadline personally. I think they want to play tough guy, but we'll see how tough they are. But it's going to be a wonderful thing. It's going to be wonderful for the Middle East. I think it'll turn the Middle East. I think you're going to have peace in the Middle East. You're going to eventually have peace in the Middle East.
Couldn't this deadline risk undermining the talks that you're having with the king today, and risk the kind of wider peace that you're trying to?
Because we're not talking about a big situation. We're talking about something that can go very quickly. We're talking about it's going to go quickly. It's not going to take a long time, okay? That's not going to take a long time. You know bullies? You know what a bully is, right?
I do.
You know the bully, I've always, and I found it throughout my life, a bully is the weakest person. And they're bullies. Okay. Hamas is bullies. The weakest people are bullies. You know that, right? All right, go ahead.
Mr. President, you were saying that
apparently we're going to solve the situation in Gaza quickly. Yeah. How long has the situation in Gaza been going on at this point? Depending on how we want to count on this issue, several thousand years. But that's okay. We'll fix it. I'm sure it'll be fine.
Palestinians will live somewhere else safe. Where exactly do you want them to live?
Well, it's not where I want them to live. It's going to be where we ultimately choose as a group. And I believe we'll have a parcel of land in Jordan. I believe we'll have a parcel of land in Egypt. We may have someplace else, but I think when we finish...
Wait, is America developing Egypt now?
We'll have a place where they're going to live very happily and very safely. And, you know, don't forget, they only want to be on the Gaza Strip because they don't know anything else. They've never had an alternative. And they don't want to be on the Gaza Strip, but they have no choice. They have to be. And they're being killed there at levels that nobody's ever seen. No place in the world is as dangerous as the Gaza Strip. They don't want to be there. They have no alternative. When they have an alternative, not one person will want to stay where they are. Nobody wants to stay there. They're living in hell. It's a death trap.
Mr. President, how do you know that the Palestinians don't want to leave their land? Some people say this is ethnic cleansing. You won't be able to force them to leave.
Okay, I have to take exception to this. No, it's not ethnic cleansing. We're not trying to kill anybody. I mean, that's... it might be displacement, but to say it's ethnic cleansing... No, normally ethnic cleansing involves the murders. You know, we're not trying to kill people. I find ethnic cleansing to be very charged language. You could why don't you just say that it's the forced displacement of people? It would be a more accurate description, but you've got to go right to ethnic cleansing. Yeah.
We're moving them to a beautiful location.
And, you know, as has been pointed out before, if we really wanted to cleanse Gaza, or for that matter, if Israel wanted to cleanse Gaza, right? If that was the objective, Gaza would not be there anymore. Gaza would be a parking lot. Gaza has total air superiority, or United States has, Israel has total air superiority over Gaza. And Gaza isn't that big. Gaza isn't that big a piece of land. You know, if we were really interested in ethnically cleansing Gaza, it would be flat. So, no, that's not really what we're trying to accomplish.
Where they have new homes, where they can live safely, where they'll have doctors and medical and all of those things, and I think it's going to be great. Yeah, any questions?
King Abdullah, what do you think about the U.S. taking over the Gaza Strip? Do you want to see the U.S.
own the Gaza Strip?
Well, I think, as I said earlier, the president is looking at Egypt coming to present their plan. As I said, we will be in Saudi Arabia to discuss how we can work with the president and with the United States. So I think let's wait until the Egyptians can come and present to the president and not get ahead of ourselves.
And is there a parcel of land in Jordan that you're willing to have Palestinians?
Well, I think what we said, I have to look at the best interests of my country. I think the president is very happy that we do this thing with 2,000 children as quickly as possible. And again, I believe that the president is looking forward to getting a group of us Arabs here to discuss the overall plan.
And last question, the 2,000 children, are those from the Gaza Strip?
Absolutely from the Gaza Strip.
Are you willing to change your mind, Mr.
That's
President?
from the Gaza Strip, the 2,000.
Are you willing to change your mind if you hear the Egyptian and the Arab plan end of the month? If they present you something different, are you open to
I
other
think
plans?
we sort of have gone down the line. We know pretty much what is going to be presented. And I think it's going to be something that's going to be magnificent for the Palestinians. They're going to be in love with it. I did very well with real estate. I can tell you about real estate. They're going to be in love with it.
But Mr. President, does it concern you that moving 2 million people from
It's a
there?
very small number of people relative to other things that have taken place over the decades and centuries. It's a very small number of people. And they're living a terrible life. Look at the way they're living now. Nobody's living like that in the entire world. They're living under buildings that are mostly fallen down and will continue to fall down. And they're living under. People are being killed every day. The conditions are horrible. There are no conditions anywhere in the world that are worse than the Gaza Strip right now.
But don't you have concern that you can destabilize Jordan and
I mean, North Korea comes to mind, but we don't have to nitpick. I mean, I'm not sure necessarily Gaza's the worst in the world, but it's definitely not one of the better places in the world. But yeah.
Hell will break out if all the hostages are not released on Saturday. What did you mean by that? And are you encouraging Netanyahu to walk away from this deal? Have you talked about this with him?
So I've looked at at the condition of people coming out of the hostage situation, and it's horrible. I looked at the before and after yesterday. 3 young men. One is dead now, as you know. The older gentleman who died, which everybody said he was alive and well, he's dead. But the 3 young men, and I looked at them from a short while ago, and I looked at them now. They're emaciated. They look like Holocaust survivors. They looked. They'll get better, but they're in rough shape. They were treated really badly, and we've heard things from them since. And I think the reason that Hamas is playing so cute is because they saw the reaction to these 3 people that came out, and the other ones. Look, the one young lady had her hand blown off practically, and they were not in great shape either. But she's missing her fingers and a big part of her hand. You know what she did? She was stopping a bullet that was aimed at her. She went like that, and it blew off her hand. I think they want time, because I think the people that they have living are in such bad shape, because they're sending the most healthy people out because they don't want to send the least healthy people out. And there was an uproar when they saw the people from yesterday. So these people are, so I don't want to do 2 and then we do another 2 in another week and then we do 4 in 3 weeks. No. They either have them out by Saturday at 12 o'clock or all bets are off.
Mr. President,
would you still consider withholding aid to those countries if they don't accept your plans to accept?
Well, I don't want to say that, because we've had such a good relationship and we're doing so well just in the short time that we've been talking. I mean, the king just made a statement. I didn't ask him to do that, about literally saving 2,000 young children from the Gaza Strip. We didn't know about that. You didn't know about that. Nobody did, except for the king and his son. I assume you told your son, right? And I just thought it was great. No, I think we'll do something. I don't have to threaten with money. We contribute a lot of money to Jordan and to Egypt, by the way, a lot, to both. But I don't have to threaten that. I think we're above that. I do believe we're above that. So.
But
points.
You consider other countries, not Jordan and Egypt. There was talks about Indonesia, Albania, other places.
Yeah, sure. And we have other countries that want to get involved. We have a lot of people that want to get involved. There's a great sense of wanting to help the Palestinians. There's a lot of good countries out there, people that rule those countries with big hearts, and this gentleman is at the top of the list.
And if they don't want to leave, how are you going to force them, Mr. President?
Oh, they're going to be great. They're going to be very happy.
Can you
Your Majesty, should we expect that the Jordanian response would be part of a coordinated Arab response?
The response will be from a multitude of countries, Arab, international. I know the Europeans want to step in, and again, we'll probably have to look to the help of the United States to make sure that COGAT, which is the clearing agency on the Israeli side, makes it as efficient as possible, because 2,000 kids, the best way to get to them is by helicopters and get them straight to our institutions. And I also believe that quite a few countries would also probably like to take some of those kids and have them treated in their hospitals. So we hope to launch this ASAP.
Yes, and that's right. This should have been done by the Biden administration, but, they didn't do anything. They didn't know what the hell they were doing. So this should have been done by the Biden administration. This should have never happened, because October 7th would have never happened. If I were president, zero chance of happening. You wouldn't have had that whole mess where the Middle East got blown up, and you wouldn't have had Ukraine and Russia fighting. That would have never happened. And by the way, we're making good progress there, I think. I really think we're making some very good progress.
Mr. President, you've said before that the U.S. would buy Gaza, and today you just said we're not going to buy Gaza.
We're not going to have to buy. We're going to have Gaza. We don't have to buy. There's nothing to buy. We will have Gaza.
What does that mean?
No reason to buy. There is nothing to buy. It's Gaza. It's a war-torn area. We're going to take it. We're going to hold it. We're going to cherish it. We're going to get it going eventually, where a lot of jobs are going to be created for the people in the Middle East. It's going to be for the people in the Middle East, but I think it can be a diamond. It can be an absolute tremendous asset for the Middle East, and you're going to have peace. It's going to bring peace in the Middle East. Gaza, the way it is right now, every 10 years you're going to have the same thing happening. I've watched it so long, all the death and destruction of Gaza. The civilization's been wiped out in Gaza. No, it's going to be a tremendous thing. It's fronting on the sea. It's going to be a great economic development job. It's going to put people to work, a lot of people to work, and those people are all going to be from the Middle East.
And just to follow up with one on that for King Abdullah, can you clarify again, sir, how do you feel about the U.S. taking Gaza, as the president said?
Well, again, this is something that we, as Arabs, will be coming to the United States with something that we're going to talk about later. To discuss.
What kind of watch does the King of Jordan have? I can't quite tell for sure, but it looks like it might be a fairly inexpensive watch. It looks like it might be. I can't quite tell what it is, but it looks like, almost looks like a cheap G-Shock or something. Which would be based.
All these options.
And Mr. President, take it under what authority? It is sovereign territory.
Under the U.S. authority.
And Mr. President, would you seek to personally develop property in Gaza after this happens?
No, I've had a great career in real estate.
Mr. President,
When you've done what I've done in the last number of years, including the 4 years that we should have been doing something else, frankly, because people see that now for sure. But when you've done what I've done, you can just do more good for people when you're president. When you're president, we can do things. This is all things that should have been done, but actually things that shouldn't have had to be done. Gaza, absolutely, it would have been so great if the Biden administration would have started this. But actually, in all fairness to them, they should have never let it happen. It did happen, and because of the fact that they let this happen, this catastrophe of October 7th, something like this becomes practical and very real, meaning the development and all of the things that I've talked about with respect to the Gaza Strip. If you didn't have the October 7th catastrophe, and it was a horrible catastrophe, then probably you wouldn't be talking about that. But the only thing I can say is this is going to bring stability and peace to the Middle East. And ultimately, when it's developed, which will be in quite a while from now, because we want to let things calm down.
Okay.
But when it's developed, it's going to bring tremendous numbers of jobs to the Middle East.
All right, so one website says that the King of Jordan is wearing this thing called a Black Falcon carbon fiber dial. Could be. Could be that. It definitely looks kind of right. $1,000. Carbon fiber and black metal band. It could be. Based. Respect.
Including the people of your country.
What if it does not bring peace to the Middle East? There are many Palestinians, even though you say that everything is going to be beautiful, everything is going to be lovely, they're not going to want to go back. There are going to be people who want to go back and feel like that it is their right to do that. You haven't said, will there be any type of repercussions or anything that happens?
We don't think that's going to happen. We think we think people are going to be very happy, thrilled. A lot of those people that you're talking about are going to end up maybe living there and maybe working there, but it'll be in a different form. We have had tremendous support for this project, and we think the biggest asset of the project is going to bring peace ultimately to the Middle East. All right.
Mr. President, one last question.
Go ahead behind you, and you've asked enough.
Mr. President, one of your promises on the campaign trail is to bring peace to the Middle East. It was a promise to your Arab voters here. The Arab voters in the United States oppose this. What do you say to that?
Well, you know, if you look at Michigan, where we have a large Arab population, as you know, I was just telling the king that we won. As you know, I won the Arab population. Now, when I started off, I wasn't leading, and when I finished, a few months later, we started campaigning in Michigan. And when I finished, we won it by a tremendous amount, by 30 points. My relationship with the Arab population has been fantastic, and my relationship with the Middle East is very good with all the countries, just about all the countries. Let's see, I would say all the countries. And they all want to do something, and they want to see peace in the Middle East. So all the stories you hear about the Middle East not really wanting peace, that they want war, they want this, they want to go a certain place. Let me tell you, those stories are false. They want to have peace. I know them all very well. They want to have peace. They want to have a good life like other people. And this will be a big factor in bringing peace to the Middle East. Thank you very much, everybody. All right, guys.
This story is also
back here
interesting.
to Live Now from Fox. I'm Andrew Kraft. Thanks for being with us here. Let's get into more of these top stories, one of which we previewed for you before the break. Let's take this live picture there in New York City, and we have some major breaking news to report coming from Fox News Digital, and this was first reported exclusively to Fox. David Spunt there at the Justice Department. Reporting now that the DOJ is moving to dismiss federal charges against New York City Mayor Eric Adams.
I mean, that's a pretty big deal. That's a pretty big deal. With the DOJ dropping a prosecution, central DOJ dropping a prosecution, especially with that kind of a political target, that's a pretty big deal. That happened last night, by the way, which is hence the imagery. But yeah, they're suspending the prosecution of the mayor. And I wonder if Trump was able to secure any sort of assistance from the mayor vis-a-vis his own criminal charges that were pending in New York. The mayor doesn't really have the power to make those charges just disappear anymore, but presumably he has influence with somebody. So you got to wonder if it was part of a deal or something, right? You got to wonder if Trump was getting something for dropping this investigation. I mean, that's a lot of leverage, that the DOJ had over the mayor of New York City. So you got to wonder if he's getting something for the deal.
And so this is pretty significant. We've been covering this story for a very long time. And I just want to put this up from Adams's attorney here, a statement from Alex Spiro saying this, quote, "As I said from the outset, the mayor is innocent and he would prevail. Today, the Department of Justice has reevaluated this case and determined it should not go forward. There's a good reason for that. The facts of the case are clear. The mayor never used his official position for personal benefit, nor did he have any role in violating campaign finance laws. Despite a lot of fanfare and sensational claims, ultimately, there was no evidence presented that he broke any laws ever. The witnesses that were promised never materialized. The additional charges that were threatened never came. Now, thankfully, the mayor and New York can put this unfortunate and misguided prosecution behind them here. So that is a statement from Adams's attorney there, Alex Spiro, a very high-powered criminal defense attorney. So just reading a little bit more, this is coming in a letter from the acting deputy attorney general, his name Emile Beauvais. He sent a letter to the acting U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York, instructing them to drop the federal case against Adams and this is important, to dismiss it without prejudice here. Now, obviously, because we are in just week 4 of the Trump administration 2.0, that is why a lot of these positions and jobs have the word acting in front of them here. Now, remember, previous U.S. District Attorney for the Southern District of New York, remember, his name was Damian Williams. He brought this case against New York City Mayor Eric Adams, but now the DOJ sending this letter to the SDNY, urging them to dismiss the case without prejudice here. Remember, Adams was indicted in September on charges.
Not so much urging them as directing them, incidentally. Because although the U.S. attorney is fairly independent, there are 94 of them, incidentally, one for each federal district. There are 94 94 U.S. attorneys. While they are pretty independent and normally have pretty free reign within their district, the law does allow the attorney general to take over the case, supervise the case, and do all kinds of things, right? Because the attorney general is the supervising authority. So while, you know, the U.S. attorney has a lot of power, the attorney general has more. So not so much urging as directing, like you will do this. So, you know, yeah.
Charges that included bribery, soliciting campaign contributions from foreign nationals, remember the Turkey connection, wire fraud, and conspiracy. Remember, he pleaded not guilty to all of those charges. Now, Fox obtained the memo that Beauvais penned to the acting U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York. That memo was titled, quote, "Dismissal without prejudice of the prosecution of Mayor Eric Adams." The memo cites President Trump's executive orders regarding combating the weaponization of law enforcement and federal immigration policy. So this is quite something here. Beauvais instructing the district there to drop the federal case against Adams, and it will be reviewed and reconfirmed by the Southern District of New York after the November 2025 election. Now, remember, Adams is up for re-election later this year. There have already been those in his own party and some to his left that are weighing primary challenges against Adams in the Democratic mayoral primary. I believe that's going to be held in June of this year. The general is in November of this year. So it is safe to say, of course, that when the indictment was handed down and these charges brought, Adams was fighting for his political life. And now he could get a huge reprieve in an election year for him. Now, according to David Spun, DOJ top brass believes the case needs to be dropped so that Adams can continue efforts to stop illegal immigration. So that's an interesting illegal immigration angle there. But according to officials, to David Spun, no quid pro quo is going on, but it is believed that at DOJ that the federal case hamstrung his abilities, Adams' abilities, and took his focus away from his duties as mayor. So I want to put up this tweet here from Fox 5 News.
Notified of the possibility that DOJ has communicated with the local U.S. Attorney's Office here, and we're going to find out more information. I don't have much now. I'm just sitting down now with John Catsimatidis, and I'm going to reach out to my attorney. I don't have much more information.
Your initial reaction is what?
Well, I think that I would like to speak with him first and get a better understanding of exactly what's taking place now, because right now I don't have any information. As I'm sitting here, calls are coming through, but we're looking to find out what's going on.
Okay, great. Mayor, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so as a journalist, sometimes you want to be in the right place at the right time, and it seemed like Lauren Green was there. Adam's out there to dinner in New York City, back out there live to the Big Apple. Now, remember, Adams met with Trump at Mar-a-Lago before his inauguration last month. Adams suggested in December that he was charged after speaking out against the Biden administration's immigration policies. Remember, he had that exclusive sit-down interview with Fox's Martha McCallum in December. Adams said, quote, "I did not break the law." He said, "I did nothing wrong. That is how I live my life here." Now, the move to dismiss the charges also comes after Attorney General Pam Bondi just last week established the weaponization working group within the DOJ that will review the activities of all law enforcement agencies over the past 4 years to identify instances of politicized
The purge is coming,
justice.
man.
And remember,
The
Adams
purge
has
is coming.
maintained all along, both implicitly and explicitly, that this was the weaponization of the Justice Department against him. And so now we're going to have to wait and
All right, so I guess that's all there is from the White House for now. Man, they're certainly making our lives interesting over here on Uncivil Law, trying to keep up with all this stuff. So, the White House said he signed executive orders. Wait a second.
Thank you very much, everybody.
No, this is yesterday. Oh, they posted yesterday's signing. And then they posted a meeting with the King of Jordan today. Okay. Last night, your professor was saying that Doge has access to FAFSA, SSN, other data. I don't know. What's their basis for data? Access to data? I don't know. I don't know the answers to your questions. They have read-only access to Treasury Department financial data, but I don't know exactly what the scope of the data is that they have access to. I don't know the full answer to your question. So I don't know exactly what they have access to. But, you know, unless the president of the United States is giving me like multiple billions of dollars, which sadly he's not, then I'm not particularly worried about it. Hard to hear the stream. I'm sorry. I thought we had the volume up at a good enough level. I'm sorry. That's the first person to complain about the volume level on the stream. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know enough information about what they have access to and what they don't have access to, so I don't know. All right, I'm going to go ahead and sign off for now, and we'll see how it's going. We'll probably be back on with some more stuff. There was supposed to be a thing today where the Progressive Caucus was supposed to give remarks, but I don't think that ever actually happened. Nope. It was supposed to happen 3 hours ago, and it never happened. So we don't get to hear the Progressive Caucus whine about whatever they want to whine about. So I'll let you go for now. I've been on Civil Law. Until later, my friends, I hope all's well. Cheers for now, my friends, and goodbye. You're only hearing every other word from me or from the stream? I mean, you're the first person to complain about it. No one else was complaining about the volume level. And the volume level looked okay to me. Yeah, so like I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, I'm gonna sign off for now.